Hi, I'm Mark Cerny. I'm excited to be here to talk about the newest addition to our console line.
I'm sorry, what in the AI is this? Does this look like a real person to you?
PlayStation 5 Pro, and how it advances gaming technology. But first, I want to take just a minute to look at what we put in the original PlayStation 5 and how it delivers an exceptional gaming experience.
Bruh.
So when the announcement for the PlayStation 5 Pro dropped, first of all, I was confused because I had no idea this was happening. And then I was underwhelmed. Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking, but I haven't been excited for a PlayStation in a long time, and PlayStation used to be my favorite console. So Sony's basically selling you a Pro console that's only a tiny bit more pro than the base PlayStation 5, and for that they expect you to go back into your backyard or your neighbor's backyard and get a footstool so you can pick some of the money that grows off of that tree. First of all, the thing's got no optical disc drive. If you're one of those old school gamers who loves to own physical copies of your games, you know, to actually own them and not just borrow them from the digital gods, sucks to be you.
But wait! There's more!
You can sort of still get a disc drive if you're willing to shell out extra cash for the privilege.
Huh?
That's right. The same disc drive that works or that you had available on the previous model, can be slapped onto the PlayStation 5 Pro for a price. So Sony's basically saying, oh, you want to own your own games? Give me money. Pay us a ridiculous amount of money for the games, and then pay us more money so you can outright own them even though you already purchased them? Like, what kind of world are we living in? Seriously. It's called the PlayStation 5 Pro, but yet it takes away something that the PlayStation 5 has, making the PlayStation 5 Pro more expensive, but then it's even more expensive than it's already expensive for you to get back the very feature that came with the previous PlayStation 5 in the first place. Right. And I know some people are probably going to argue, oh, it's going to have 2 terabytes and a solid state drive. Yeah, okay, but does that really justify the $700 price tag? Think about what $700 can get you. That's still rent for a lot of people. And let's be honest, the people that already had the PlayStation 5, there really isn't even that much to warrant them upgrading to something that seems like an outright downgrade. Since, you know, you can't actually own your own games unless you pay even more than the $700 to do so. I know people are going to make the argument that you can still own your games and blah, 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 blah. And you can argue that owning digital copies of console games is convenient. But just think about this for a moment. What you're trading for the so-called convenience that will, not if, will become an inconvenience later. You're not really owning anything. It's more like you're renting access to a game that can vanish at any moment, because unlike the physical copies of games, like what we've had forever, digital games can be taken away, altered, or even made unplayable, and you have no control over it. It's an illusion, and it's a scam. When you buy a digital game, you're not actually purchasing the game itself. You're actually just purchasing a license to access the game. It's a little piece of fine print that most people ignore. This means that your access to the game is subject to terms and conditions set by the platform, like Microsoft, Sony, whoever. If the platform decides to, I don't know, like take away your access, right, for any reason, whether it's due to the licensing disputes or changes in their policy, you're fresh out of luck. Too bad. Oh my God, I own this. I paid money for this. Sorry. And compare that to a physical copy of something, right? Once it's in your hands, you can feel it. It's real. It's yours to play forever, no matter what the platform decides to do. Or let's say for whatever reason they decide to censor the game, like what has happened in the past. Or the company goes belly up. You lose all your access to that, your entire library. All of the games I've collected over the years, guess what? I still have them in my cabinet. I have gone back and bought retro handheld games and the old PlayStation Slims or the PlayStation 2 so I can play Monster Rancher games and the Nintendo 64 and the Xbox 360, and I can pop them out many years later, blow off the dust, and still play them because I actually own them. They're mine. If people don't already know this, I know some people probably aren't thinking about it because of the convenience, but you seriously need to wake up. Digital stores don't and will not last forever. When Sony announced plans to shut down the PlayStation Store for the older consoles like the PlayStation 3 and the Vita, everybody was freaking out, and understandably so. It was a reminder that once a digital storefront goes offline, you might not be able to read down games that you so-called purchased. If your hard drive fails or you upgrade to a new console, you could lose access to your entire digital library. As a matter of fact, as of this video, there were reports that the PlayStation 3 online servers would shut down in 2024. Now, before it was only for certain games, but there are a lot of rumors going around, and usually when there's a smoke, there's a fire, and we've seen stuff like this happen anyway, so I wouldn't be surprised. There's also been countless cases like this on other platforms or digital storefronts where people lost their entire collection of movies. And yeah, you can never get that back. Physical games, on the other hand, they don't rely on any online infrastructure, so as long as you have the disc, you can play the game. Even if the store remains open, games themselves can still disappear. Licensing agreements for things like music, likenesses, or even entire franchises can expire. And when they do, companies can delist the games, and they have done so from digital stores. And once that happens, they become unavailable for new purchases or even re-downloads. So if you ever delete the game to make room for something else, you're probably not going to get it back, even though you so-called purchase it. None of this was ever an issue for something that you bought and owned physically. That's what true ownership is. I mean, even your subscription to Netflix can be annoying because there are so many things that I've added to my list on Netflix, and when I come back finally ready to watch them, they're no longer available on Netflix.
Where's my drink?
What drink?
My drink?
Like, I know it's a little bit different because it's a subscription for Netflix, I get it, but it's the same type of frustration and the same principle. And to be completely honest, people are getting a little bit too comfortable with this. Digital games are also subject to the whims of constantly changing terms of service agreements. So if a platform decides to change its rules, let's say banning account sharing, imposing new restrictions, or even just out of the blue just deciding to just close your account, your entire digital library just disappears overnight. It's basically like, oh, you gotta play by our rules or else, or if we make a mistake, you lose all your stuff, and you don't get any say in it. Nothing. You have no control. It could just happen to you. It can happen to anyone. It could be an accident, and it's not their fault because nothing ever is. And people are so sick of this growing trend of games as a service. This means the game is constantly being updated or patched, sometimes to the point where the game you originally bought isn't the same game anymore. I've watched so many people change their reviews on games that they've purchased because of an update that just broke and just ruined the entire game. The older Nintendo, the PlayStation games, all of those are finished products that were worth their price tag. And they weren't as expensive as now, even when you take into consideration inflation. The same game I purchased will be the same game 100 years later. If someone 200 years from now finds my whole collection of video games and has the consoles and the means to play those games, they'll be able to play them as they were and as they always will be, so long as the discs or cartridges are not scratched or damaged. By the way, just an interesting tidbit, and I'm not telling anyone to do this with their collection, but if you have an old Nintendo game cartridge and you accidentally put them in the washer, like I think it's a Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance, and you put it in the washer by accident, you know, all you gotta do is put it in the dryer with the clothes and they work fine like magic. I tried that on a whim because I was really desperate because I'm like, oh crap, all my games. I think I brought them to someone to show them and I forgot them in my pocket. And I was surprised it worked, but it does. And now I understand when old people say they don't make them like they used to, because they really don't. But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, digital copies are always connected to these updates, and if the servers for a game go down or the developer decides to sunset a title, you could end up losing all your access. But with physical copies, you play the base game as it was when you bought it, free from any of these forced updates. And the next thing is, when you own a physical game, you can trade it, sell it, lend it to your friends. You have tangible control over it. You don't have that with digital games. That's impossible. The moment you buy a digital game, it's stuck in your account and there's no option to get any value back. It's like this one-way ticket. Once you buy it, that's just it. You can't do anything else with it. You can't sell it. You can't, nope, why? You don't own it. No matter how little you play it or how badly it goes or how badly it ages, I should say. You can't be like, I'm just gonna sell this back later even if it's for $5. Nope. Can't do that.
Honey Badger don't care. Honey Badger don't give a shit. It just takes what it wants.
Your digital game collection is tied to your account. So if you lose access to the account for any reason, whether it do even hacking, forgetting your password, security issues, the gaming company gets hacked, like you lose access to all the games that you, and I say this with quotations, own. Physical games don't have this problem. You can hand them to anyone, pop them in. I mean, only if you lose them or get robbed, that's the only way you lose those games. There's no passwords, there's no accounts, just plug and play, you just put it in. I feel like playing today, I don't gotta let, just put it in. That's what, I just love that. That to me is ultimate convenience. And I say all of that, number one, because I wanted to rant about it, to be honest. And number two, this is one of the things I look at with something like the PlayStation 5. And it seems as though the PlayStation 5 Pro is moving away from the option to have this, and it just doesn't bode well. I like how they're trying to make the extra accessory for you to be able to own your physical copy of the game, and it's nauseating and a huge insult to the customer base. For me personally, I don't like what the PlayStation 5 Pro represents, which is this push to remove ownership from the people of the things that they spend their hard-earned money on. Digital games give corporations total control. They decide if and when you can play, what updates you'll get, and how long the game will even be available to download. With physical copies, once it's in your hands, you control all of that experience. You don't have to worry about censorship with the game, or them adding in those stupid after-the-fact trigger warning messages or commercialized intros for specific stupid holidays that people don't care about. It's never just about your game and being immersed in the world. It's about corporate propaganda, and it's annoying. And then you do all of that and then have the audacity to tell people that it's near $1,000 without the option to own your game? Bro, especially in this economy where people are already struggling with inflation, rent hikes, and, you know, trying to freaking eat. The Pro doesn't even offer a substantial enough performance boost. No CPU upgrade, just a bigger GPU and slightly better ray tracing. Because, oh my god, that's gonna make my Last of Us playthrough feel revolutionary.
We've played these games already. $700. And it's the only version. No disc version. $700. $700 for the discless version? Did I read that right? Available November 7th. PS5 Pro. I'm not seeing a disc on there. I'm not seeing a disc reader on there. $700 US.
They did release the PS5 Pro. Oh boy. They said it's like $700 or something like that, right? So that's a lot of fucking money for a console. $700 for something like this. That's nuts, man. Like, that's a lot of fucking money. Without a disc drive, what the fuck? That is weird. Why do they not have a they don't have a disc drive in this? Oh my god. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Is somebody really gonna drop $700 for this? I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's not really worth it, right? I mean, like, I get that some people will. We can all clearly see the difference, right? But that's a lot of money, man. A PS5 Pro will probably deliver you a better value than a $700 PC that you build yourself, if you are talking about video games exclusively.
Starting at £700! £700! Oh my goodness. Nah, they gotta be violating. £700, $699. Bro, what the hell? Nah, they're violating. Let me know. What do you guys think? Available November the 7th.
If you already own a PS5, just save your money, bro. Sony just announced the PS5 Pro earlier today, and this is basically what it looks like. It's basically just meant to be like an upgraded version of the PS5, you feel me? Faster ray tracing, faster rendering speeds, shit like that. The upgrades in itself does not sound too bad, but retail is $700, bro. You mean to tell me you want me to pay more than retail price for the original PS5 for another PS5 with minimal upgrade? And
yeah, you know what? Like, I know, just like all these other people, I know I mentioned this before, but my brain can't wrap around the whole $700 thing. It's insulting. At a whopping $700, which is the starting price, by the way, the PlayStation 5 Pro is launching in the middle of a financial apocalypse for a lot of people. Not to mention, if you want the full setup, the disc drive, the vertical stand, etc., you're looking at $800 plus. You could almost buy a half-decent gaming PC for that. And for what? To play games that look slightly prettier if you squint? Sony's banking on people shelling out hundreds of dollars for some barely noticeable improvements if they already had the previous iteration. Seriously, you guys need to hop on the PC train like I have years ago and become a full-time PC gamer, because this is ridiculous. As much as I've loved PlayStation and Sony over the years, I barely ever even play my PlayStation 5, I've got to be honest. And there's just way more available on PC, and I can also use my Xbox controller to integrate with most of the games. It's already integrated within most of the games, and they just have much better performance, more options. And then on top of all of this, I just think it's really bad timing in my opinion.
PS5 Pro got announced. There it is right there. And I'm not gonna lie, the specs are decent. 2 terabytes of storage, but the price is insane. Let me know, guys, are you really gonna pay $700 for this thing? $800 if you want the disc edition? That's insane. But, I mean, it looks like they're just testing price market to see if people would really pay that much for it.
What doesn't help is that Sony's relationship with its fan base hasn't exactly been the best lately. Between the PlayStation 5 being impossible to get for a while, the lackluster exclusive releases that they had to end up shutting down shortly after they released them, and making some weird-ass decisions, a lot of the fans are already feeling really burned out. And add to that the fact that many of the most anticipated games, like GTA 6, weren't even out yet at the time of this video, or at the time of the announcement. So what is everyone supposed to play on this Pro console? Slightly upgraded versions of games we've already beaten, or have already been available for the longest while already? When I look back at the library for the PlayStation 2, endless games. And then as the consoles progress for the newer generation consoles, especially at launch, it just feels like the libraries kept shrinking and shrinking. And the only thing that makes up most of the library are games that were already available on the previous console. So what exactly am I paying for? I'm gonna pay $700 for maybe one game that I'm gonna get? People are just fed up. They're pissed because Sony's acting like it's doing them a favor with the so-called Pro version while nickel and diming for every little thing, like the $30 vertical stand. Oh yeah, and the separate disk drive. It's giving Apple vibes. Like, oh, here's a new device that's more expensive, but doesn't even come with the basic stuff that the previous device came with, but it's way more expensive. Aren't I a generous god? It's the ego for me and the complete lack of self-awareness.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
The PlayStation 5 Pro is a classic example of how out of touch Sony has become. Instead of delivering something truly revolutionary, they're pushing a console that's marginally better at best, but comes with an even more insulting price tag. People could barely afford the PlayStation 5 in the first place. And I know they must feel proud of themselves. It doesn't mean that people can't drag them through the mud for it. It doesn't mean that they're gonna take us with them. I mean, I know we already have this issue with Steam games and not owning them, but I would encourage you guys to start buying physical copies of things just to prove a point, because something's gotta give. And it's going to get to the point where all of our money is just gonna go down a hole, and we just have this illusion of owning things that we don't, which is a great way for corporations to control us. But that's just my take on it. Things are too expensive. I have more important things to spend my money on than something that is missing the basic things that the previous console had. Move forward, not backwards.
You can join us.
I can't hold it any longer.
Sony, $700 is crazy. Sure, better GPU, more memory, more storage, fantastic, awesome. Why doesn't it have a disk drive? Also, why doesn't it have a vertical stand? Pro? Like, bare minimum, it should have at least come with a vertical stand if you were gonna market the Pro for $700. How are you not even giving them a piece of plastic?